Okay, everybody, so today I'm doing a how to do a tune-up on a Stihl BR600. I've actually made a video like this before. Figured I'd make another one on a different unit. This is not the same BR600 that I've done on it before. This is my other one, the one that actually runs good. This will include the air filter, fuel filters, and the spark plug. I have ordered the valve adjustment kit, and I'll probably do a video on how to do that as well. And I also have a primer bulb that I'm going to change, but again, that's going to be a separate video. So let's get started. First off, I'm going to start by removing all of the necessary pieces to get to where we need to get to. First, I'm going to remove the recoil. It is held in with 3 bolts, 1, 2, and a third one down here. To do this entire process, all you need is a T27 to do the simple tune-up with it's the wrench that has the spark plug sockets on each end. So let's start by removing the recoil. Once all 3 bolts have been removed, the recoil should come right out just like this. I'm going to take the bolts out and let them sit right here on the washing machine where I'm doing this at. And if everything looks wet, I actually did just clean this thing before I brought it in. So there's the recoil. Next, I'm going to remove the main engine shroud cover. And to do this, there are 4 bolts. There's one here above the carburetor, one here above the muffler. Then there's one down here, right behind this rubber buffer. And then there's another one right under the muffler, right there. If you can see that good. I'm going to start by removing those. And just so everybody remembers, the 4 bolts that the engine shroud cover is held in with are these coarse thread screws. Coarse thread screws that look like this go into plastic. And then fine thread bolts or screws like this go into metal. So remember that the engine shroud are held in with coarse thread screws because they go into plastic. And the recoil is held in with the fine thread screws because it goes into metal. After you had removed the 4 bolts, the engine shroud cover will just come right off. Just play with it a little bit. It'll come right off just like this. And just also a quick hint, when you take this engine shroud off, make sure that these 3 metal or whatever these are made out of, these spacers stay in the cover. When the recoil is on here, these are supposed to help keep the recoil aligned when it's attached to the shroud. So be sure these do not get lost. You can still use the machine without these, but they're there for a very good reason. So there's the engine shroud. Let's move on to the next step. Once you have that out of the way, there's the air filter cover. I'm going to take you guys off the tripod. There's 1 bolt here, and then there's another one right in front of the fuel tank. We're going to take those off now. Once you have removed the bolts, the cover just slides right off. Now, these bolts will actually stay in the cover. They won't come out, so you don't have to worry about them coming out. And what I like to do is I usually like to take all the bolts and place them in the air filter cover just so they don't get lost. So that's how you do that. Now, to be completely honest, you don't have to remove the recoil and the entire engine shroud to do this. The only reason why I did that was just so you could get a better view of everything. You could remove all that so you can have easier access to the plug, so you can wiggle the boot back and forth, and you have a whole lot more room to do this, because when the engine shroud is on, it's a little bit trickier to do that, but it's very possible. But just for the sake of this video, I decided to just take the cover off. And as you see, when you're taking the spark plug boot off, try to twist it and pull up at the same time. Never try to yank it, or else you could rip the boot off the wire. Just be careful, because these are very fragile. And then you're going to take one of these wrenches from Stihl. Usually, if these have 2 sizes, you'll see a bigger one and a smaller one. I don't know what sizes these are, but for this spark plug, the CMR6H, you take the smaller side of the wrench. And as you can imagine, it's pretty straightforward. Put it on here, kind of give it a couple taps, just like that. And just take it out by hand. Once you take your old spark plug out, just like that, NGK CMR6H. This is the same spark plug that goes in all the Stihl Formix trimmers. A similar plug to this is the Bosch R10. I do not know any more spark plugs that are the same, like, cross reference. I don't know what the Champion one is. All I know are the 6H and the Bosch R10. Take your new one, fresh NGK out of the box, straight from Japan, just like that. Now I will get you guys in close. Now I will say a very important rule with spark plugs is always hand tighten them. You never want to tighten these with a socket or anything first. Always make sure you hand tighten them and make sure they're going in right, make sure they're going in smoothly and they're not, you know, rough or anything, just like that. Once you get it in the rest of the way, put your wrench on it like this and just give it a, make sure it's tightened down the rest of the way. Once you start it, usually it'll go on pretty easy the rest of the way. Once it's on there, give it a little snug. Never go crazy with a spark plug, as you can strip the heads out, but make sure like it's still moving just a tad bit, just like that. As it is a new plug, the washer is going to need to be compressed a bit, just like that. Press your plug boot back on it. That's the spark plug. Now we'll move on to the air filter. Now the air filter is the quickest and easiest out of all three of these. What you basically just have to do is take your finger and just pull it out like this. Now, of course, I will show, this air filter is actually pretty okay, but I'm just doing it anyway. So when you take your filter, and I do recommend using OEM parts, especially for Stihls because, you know, they can be picky, make sure the pleated parts or areas go inside of this portion of the box. So make sure they're fitting like that. Once you have it in there, make sure that this outer trim of the filter is seated all around the air filter box. Kind of run your finger along through it and stuff like this. Make sure it's seated properly. And also when you're replacing these filters, always make sure that the seal is not cracked or broken anywhere, because dirt can slip through cracks in the rubber, not just through the pleated parts of the filter. So make sure that they're not torn. Make sure it's seated properly, just like that. Pretty easy. Next up, last but not least, are the fuel filters. Pop your cap open like this, twist it off. Mine is actually off of that little hinge that it stays in, but that's okay. So you can do this one of many ways. You can use a coat hanger, you can use needle nose pliers, anything. But Stihl does make this special metal piece tool where it has a hook side where you can reach in, grab the fuel line and pull it out, and then this hook is kind of to like hold it out of the tank. So how I'm going to do this is any Stihl Magnum leaf blower should have two fuel filters. So there's one here and then there's one all the way over there. It has an extra long line. So I'm going to reach in here and grab this portion of the filter. Kind of pull, actually, I'm rather use two hands, so I'm going to put you guys up here. You should be able to see me do this just fine. Okay, going to pull this out. You might have to play with it a little bit. All right, now once you have it out of here, okay, let me get this right. All right, the line, if you can, I'm going to zoom you in from where you're standing. The line that has this notch in it is the one you need to keep on there. So I'm going to, if you can see that, this notch, that's what that hook is for, to keep it there. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take the other line and I actually was not, oh, these are aftermarket fuel filters. I forgot to mention, so they're not that good. Well, I'm going to remove this line first. In fact, I think I'm going to use my needle nose for this, just in case. All right. I know it's kind of a mess. I apologize. So you're going to remove that other line, like I had shown, and you're going to pull the other fuel filter out. And like I said, the line that has this little notch in it is the one that connects to the fuel tank, actually, and it needs to stay where it's at. So I'm going to hold my line thing there like that, and I'm going to open up these fuel filters and we'll put them in. So first I'm going to replace the filter that goes on the far end of the tank. It's just pretty simple. Take that Stihl fuel line, twist it off. Then you're going to take the fuel filter that has the single port on it. They're orange, nice OEM. Just going to slip it on like that. Very, very easy. Set that aside for a moment. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this one. I'm disappointed that the filter broke, but then again, it is aftermarket. Going to kind of twist it off of this line. It's off just like that. Get the other one out of here. And I will say this, now I'll be completely honest, I actually don't know if this is the case, but you can put these on either one of the ports. I don't believe it matters. I don't think it does. No one ever told me it did. So take either one of the ports. As I'm holding this up with the hook, I'm just going to push it on there real easily. Just like that. I hope you saw that. I'll zoom in a little bit more. All right, so again, we're going to take the other line with this fuel filter right here, and I'm going to attach it to the other port on that filter. Then what we're going to do, I'm going to zoom you out a little bit, is we're going to push this fuel filter in first and make sure it's in there. Then we're going to drop the other filter inside of the tank. I'll show you what that looks like. The one filter is going to stay here while the other filter travels to the other side of the tank. You can just barely see it. Again, make sure that these are inside the tank and at the bottom like they should be. So those are the fuel pickup bodies, or they're called pickup bodies by Stihl, but they're basically the fuel filters. They're what brings, you know, fuel from the tank to the carb. Very simple. That's how you do that. In the first part of the reassembly process, we're going to put the engine shroud cover back on. Once again, the 4 screws that are coarse thread to go into the plastic. And since it's off, one screw goes here above the carburetor, one above the muffler right here. Then the other one goes down here, which actually is attached to this air box right down there. And then the other one goes right there underneath the throttle cable right there. Let's go and put this on. Once again, it's a pretty easy and straightforward process. Just take your cover, make sure it's lined up. The easiest way to make sure it's lined up is if it lines up with the plug boot right here. Kind of push it on, and I'll actually get you guys in closer for this. Get you guys in closer to show you. I accidentally paused the video. Sorry if I'm coughing or if my voice sounds weird. I've been sick with strep throat for a little while now. But again, push the cover in. You'll see like that. Then you will have to push the cover over these little. For the bushings right here, you do have to push them over these on the tank. Same thing on this side. Now, I will get up and show you something else. Make sure that this little tab on the cover goes into this notch right here. The outer edge notch right here above the throttle cable goes in like that. Again, push it over that on the tank. When it looks like that, nicely sealed, you've definitely done it right. Again, we're up here. Kind of push it. There you go. Once again, it's seated down here properly and it's lined up. So now we can start putting in the screws. Now once you have the engine shroud on, you'll take your recoil, get the bolts and everything like that. So you'll take your recoil and you're going to place it over the flywheel right here. Kind of pulling the rope a bit to make sure it's, you know, lined up correctly. Now you can put in your bolts to hold it down. And again, as I had stated before, the recoil takes the fine thread bolts because it is going into metal. And now finally we can reinstall the air filter cover. It's pretty easy from here. Just make sure it's lined up with the holes and just press it against there. You'll know when it's lined up because it'll look like it matches or it's flush with the engine shroud cover. Start bolting in the bolts here. Now with everything properly put back together, just look over everything, a little visual inspection, make sure all the bolts are in their places, everything looks right. And that's how you do a simple tune-up on a Stihl BR600. I hope this video helped you. Give it a thumbs up if it did. If not, you are also free to give it a thumbs down. If I missed anything, please do let me know. Thanks for watching.